Welcome to this explainer from all of us here at Pratimoksha, Dubai's premier yoga center. I am so thrilled you're tuning in today. If you've spent any time at all on a yoga mat, you already know the journey is deeply personal, it's incredibly rewarding, and honestly, sometimes it's wonderfully complex. Today, we're going to explore what it truly means to deepen your practice, specifically by walking through one of our most transformative offerings, the Asana and Beyond program. Our goal here is to give you a really clear, structured look into our studio's philosophy and how we approach those critical next steps in your wellness journey. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's explore what lies beyond just the basic postures. So, are you feeling a bit stuck in your practice? Does that resonate with you at all? In our experience at the studio, we see this really familiar pattern pop up all the time. Somewhere around that second year of steady practice, this quiet sort of frustration often sets in for our intermediate students. You know the feeling. You finally nail a difficult posture, maybe you hold a perfect crow pose for the very first time, only to realize you feel a little empty afterward. Those poses that once felt entirely impossible, the ones you sweated and worked so hard to achieve, suddenly just feel like a routine. Your breath is steadier, your body is undeniably stronger, and yet something just feels missing. It's hard to put your finger on exactly what it is, but it's a very real feeling of plateauing. We want to validate that feeling right here, right now. It is incredibly common, and actually, it's a beautiful signal from your mind and body that you are absolutely ready for something more.
No, this plateau often happens in the context of where we live and work. To put things into perspective, a 2024 peer-reviewed study of UAE workers found that nearly 57% report moderate to high occupational stress, which is often tied directly to workplace conflict. And it gets even higher on a personal level. Almost 67% report high individual stress. We're talking about the everyday friction of tight deadlines, heavy expectations, and just the massive mental load of living life in the fast lane. This intense, fast-paced pressure is exactly why so many of our students first step onto the mat at Pratimoksha. But here's the crucial question. What happens after the physical basics of yoga have been mastered, but that intense daily pressure hasn't gone away? Because frankly, a basic physical practice alone just isn't always enough to combat that level of systemic stress.
Section 1. Enter Asana and Beyond. That specific question, what do we do when the basics are dialed in but the stress is still there, is exactly what our Asana and Beyond program was built to answer. This isn't just about handing you a new sequence of tricky poses. It is a deliberate, highly structured response to that plateau and the lingering occupational pressure we just talked about. We designed this to bridge the gap between physical fitness and true, holistic resilience. Our founder, Lalitha Viswanath, who has spent close to 2 decades teaching classical yoga right here in Dubai, built the program around this exact principle. Technique without understanding eventually plateaus. Really think about that for a second. As Lalitha often teaches us, a student can perfect the physical shape of a pose. You could be holding an absolutely flawless Warrior Two, and yet you might still be practicing on complete autopilot. Your body's doing the work, but your mind is busy writing tomorrow's grocery list or stressing over a meeting agenda. The Asana and Beyond program is specifically designed to interrupt that autopilot. It essentially forces you to connect the how with the why. To actually break that autopilot, we have to look at the root of what we teach, classical yoga. In classical yoga, asana, the physical posture itself, is defined as just one limb among 8. It is not the whole shebang. Naturally, in beginner and intermediate classes, your focus is almost entirely on the physical form, because that's exactly where a new student's attention has to go just to stay safe. But Asana and Beyond shifts that focus entirely. The physical postures are still there, absolutely, but they transform from being the final goal into merely a doorway. We start moving toward the subtler work, profound breath control, acute internal awareness, and the rigorous mental discipline of staying completely present when things get difficult, rather than just rushing past the discomfort to get it over with. Section 2. Are you ready? Determining when you're actually ready to make this transition is absolutely crucial. As welcoming and inclusive as we are at Pratimoksha, we also strongly believe in setting gentle but firm boundaries to protect your practice. I want to clarify right now that Asana and Beyond is not simply a harder version of a regular yoga class. It's a structured deepening. It requires a specific level of readiness, both physically and mentally, to truly benefit from the curriculum. Why? Because depth work requires a base to deepen. We are very direct about who this program is not for. It is not for beginners. If you're practicing maybe twice a month for a few weeks, you just aren't going to get much out of this program yet. And honestly, pushing you into it too early usually backfires. Advanced material, this internal, subtle work we do, needs a strong, automatic physical foundation to attach to. Without that base, you're going to spend all your mental energy just trying to balance on one foot, which leaves absolutely nothing left in the tank for the internal work. So, how do you know if you're ready? Here is the actual checklist we use at the studio to gauge readiness. First, can you hold foundational postures with reasonable stability without needing a teacher's constant correction? Second, have you noticed your practice feels a bit repetitive lately rather than developing? Third, are you becoming curious about the underlying philosophy behind all this physical work? Fourth, do you crave structured guidance rather than just open-ended self-practice? And finally, have you completed a solid period of consistent classes like our studio's core sessions? If you are sitting there nodding along to these points, well, you are likely standing right at the threshold, ready for the next stage of your journey with us. Section 3. The power of slowing down. Once you step through that doorway with us, you encounter one of the most transformative aspects of the program. And actually, it's often the biggest challenge for our students. It's a stark contrast in pacing. Look, we all know the Dubai pace, right? It heavily rewards speed. Careers move at lightning speed, schedules are dense, and there's this constant undertow pulling you toward doing way more in way less time. People naturally bring that results-driven urgency right onto the mat. But the Pratimoksha pace? It is deliberately the exact opposite. We are asking you to be slow, deliberate, and fiercely attentive. When you spend your entire week rushing between back-to-back meetings in Business Bay or the DIFC, stepping into our studio and being asked to radically slow the pace of your attention, it can be jarring. It is often the most difficult part of the whole program, but by every account from our students, it is undoubtedly the most valuable. We aren't just stretching muscles, we are literally retraining your nervous system. To actually make that mental shift possible, our practical approach is super simple. We know you are busy. That's why our class schedules are built with Dubai's actual, real-world working rhythms in mind. We time our sessions around the hours that busy professionals can realistically commit to, rather than assuming you have some idealized, wide-open schedule. It reflects a philosophy that runs deep through everything we do at Pratimoksha. We absolutely must build a practice around your real life, not an imagined version of it. Because at the end of the day, consistency is key, and consistency only happens when the schedule actually makes sense for you. So, what does it actually look like when you're in the room sweating it out with us? Well, there's no single format, and that is very intentional. Some sessions center on extended holds, which are specifically designed to test your mental composure under physical fatigue. Others focus almost entirely on the breath, using the physical posture merely as a stabilizing frame. And some sessions are built around pure silence and internal observation, with very little physical movement going on at all. But what stays absolutely consistent across all of these different formats is the intense demand for your attention. We repeatedly ask you to notice what is happening in your own mind when the practice gets uncomfortable. And let me tell you, that is a completely different skill set from physical flexibility or strength. Section 4, your path forward. Learning to sit with that discomfort and maintain your attention opens up incredible new avenues. But one of the most important things we tell our students is that progress in this discipline is never, ever measured against a clock. Throw the timeline out the window. Some students spend a year in Asana and beyond, others stay for years, finding that the depth of the work itself is just a constant source of discovery. When you are ready to evolve further, the paths become highly personalized. Asana and Beyond is often the tipping point where students start asking the bigger questions. From here, you might move into our other signature programs, like Dhyana, where we explore advanced breathwork and standalone meditation. Or you might just want to keep deepening your physical group practice without formally diving into the heavy philosophy, and hey, that is perfectly valid. For others, when their goals genuinely diverge from group settings, we shift them into our highly personalized individual program built entirely around their unique physical and mental landscape. Ultimately, the journey is yours to shape. We've covered a lot of ground today, and I really hope this explainer has illuminated the core philosophy we hold so dear at Pratimoksha. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Are you ready to practice with intention rather than just raw effort? If that feeling of plateauing sounds at all familiar to you, and if stepping off that autopilot treadmill appeals to you, then it is time to experience this firsthand. Come visit us. Book a trial class at our Odd Myth Haas studio. It is truly the simplest, best way to find out if this stage of practice is the right next step for you. Thank you so much for giving us your time, your focus, and your attention today. We can't wait to welcome you onto the mat.